Is he there?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
What about yours? Mine had a great case on it. And they're a lot dirtier.
The slowest 2 minutes you've ever sat through.
Well, there hasn't been one for 17 years. It cuts to that. We did have some ditch hearings. But that was a little.
There was always controversy over town roads, one way or the other, so.
How many miles do you have in your township? How many miles do you have in your township?
About 17, 18.
Okay, it is 1 o'clock. So we are going to reconvene our board meeting from this morning. I'll make acknowledgement that JJ Waldham is online, and so he'll be joining us as one of the county commissioners virtually. But you'll be able to see and hear him, and he can see and hear us, so we're all good. The time is
Yep.
we want to note 1 o'clock, and I'm going to turn the meeting over to Richard Hodson, who is going to convene this meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. For the record, and what we are doing is on the record, it's being recorded. So that means anyone who speaks up in terms of testimony, please, when you begin your presentation, if you could identify yourself by name. If you are one of the petitioners, I also ask that you establish your address for the record, because under the statute, the petitioners have to, a sufficient number of petitioners have to reside in the political subdivision in order to have what we call standing in order to proceed. I am an attorney, don't hold that against me. But if I act rather formal, that's because this is a legal formal proceeding that has the ability to affect the rights and interests of individual taxpayers and landowners, and it could have financial implications on township government. So it is important we make a thorough, complete, and a civil and civilized record of the proceedings. How we're going to proceed today is we are, as reflected in the notice of hearing that was sent out to the listed parties that was sent on or about February 26, 2024. This matter is brought pursuant to a public notice for a public meeting, pursuant to the provisions of Minnesota Statute 163.16. That statute provides if the requisite number of residents of a town believe that a town road has been insufficiently maintained or preserved for public passage and usage, that they can petition in this case, the Pine County Board of Commissioners to have a hearing, as we are doing today, in which testimony will be taken under oath, evidence will be presented. Should the county board ultimately determine that the township has not complied with statutes and kept the road in a passable, proper condition, it can direct and order the town to do that. And the statute 163.16 talks about how those expenses will be allocated or how this will be paid for. My role today is to take this testimony. I have been appointed by the Pine County Board to serve as a hearing officer. So just everyone understands the format, since I know for many people, this is not something that you're typically used to. Under the statute, testimony will be taken under oath. You will be allowed to present, as the notice of hearing establishes. You can present any physical or documentary evidence as well, if you wish to do that. We're going to proceed in an orderly format. As you can see, the commissioners are present and either here or by electronic means. And for those of you who are appearing by electronic means, I want to welcome you as well. I do have a request though, so we avoid feedback and background noise. If you are not presenting testimony, or commissioner, if you aren't asking questions, if you could please place your electronic system on mute. Otherwise, in this post-COVID Zoom world, we've learned that sometimes can create for hearing problems for the rest of us, and especially old guys like me who have hearing problems already. I don't need the echo and the feedback. So thank you all. As I say, we will proceed with petitioners presenting testimony. I did ask, and I continue to ask, that everyone who plans or is contemplating presenting testimony to sign in, and that is to get an idea of the order of the witnesses that are going to be called and present evidence. You will be allowed to say your piece, make your statements. I will ask any questions that I think would be helpful to follow up. And again, I want to focus this discussion, so we're not here till the cows come home, on the issues properly before the county board. Whether this is a good idea to maintain a road or not, or whether there's a road or isn't a road, is a legal issue that is not before this board and me today. The question presumes, until a court says otherwise, that this town road does exist. And now the question really is very limited to, has it been properly maintained? Is it passable for public usage for those who wish to use it? That's really the focus of our inquiry. So petitioners, town members, any other interested parties who wish to speak, I ask that you focus on that topic as opposed to anything else you might want to talk about today. After you make your presentation, I ask any questions that I think might help clarify the record. The Board of Commissioners, the county board members, will have the opportunity to ask any questions as well. This isn't intended to be a debate, a discussion, or a dialogue with the board members. This is so they can be better enlightened on the petitioner's views and the views of anybody else who might have a relevant interest in these proceedings. So I'm going to try and keep us on track and keep the issues relevant to those topics. For the commissioners, although it's probably only useful a useful analogy to only a couple of us in this room, like the sheriff and the county attorney, think of yourselves as if this were a grand jury, where typically evidence is presented and then the grand jury members are allowed to ask any follow-up questions as well. Once the record is closed, I will, pursuant to the commission I've been given by the Board of Commissioners, I will be preparing a written report, findings, my recommendations of key aspects, what has been established, proven or not proven. That written report will be submitted through the Office of Auditor Treasurer to the board. The board will ultimately reconvene as a deliberative quasi-judicial body, and they will then make such decision and action either to deny the petition, in which case the matter is closed, or if the board sees fit that the case has been proven, they will issue appropriate directive to the town to take such action as is necessary to make the road passable, address the financial issues and things that go with that. With that background, members of the county board, any questions of any of you before we proceed?
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks.
And as I said, we are being recorded here, so I don't believe in dilly-dallying and and I want to get right into the matter. So the record is clear. When I talked about submission of evidence and exhibits and testimony, I will be placing anyone who chooses to testify, asking them to swear or affirm under penalties of perjury to the truthfulness of their testimony. In terms of submission of exhibits, the record already consists of certain exhibits, those being the petition that was initially submitted to the Pine County Board of Commissioners. It did have several names attached in separate format. There were several different sheets, by my count, 3 different sheets, but it did meet the requisite number of 5 individuals. They've all identified a property identification number for which they claim residence. I did not check residency, but I did review the property identification numbers before the proceedings started from public records. They do appear to be within the requisite political jurisdiction of the town, at least 5 of them. After I hit 5, I confess I quit. I just wanted to make sure we had the right number. And along with that petition, there were certain exhibits attached to it. Those are already part of this record. So the petition exhibits are part of this record. The notice of hearing is also part of the record already, as well as the affidavit of mailing that was submitted and established on February 26, 2024. So you need not submit any additional, you don't have to duplicate those exhibits. In other words, if you have additional new exhibits you wish to submit, as the notice of hearing indicates, hopefully you brought sufficient number of copies so they can be marked and they will be part of the record. And all of the exhibits will be included in my report that I ultimately submit to the county board. So with that, I know some of the witnesses, at least 1 or 2, seek to appear remotely, which is certainly fine. We've made provision for that, and I tried to arrange it to the extent possible to have those people appear first in case we had any technology issues. So starting with the petitioners, and then, like I say, we'll be followed by any township representative, and then any other witnesses or interested parties who choose to appear. But under the petitioner supporting witnesses, the first name I show is Ronald, Wickham. And I believe that intention, according to the note, is to appear remotely. So do we have Ronald Wickham on the screen somewhere?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Are you able to hear us? And were you able to hear my introductory comments?
Yes.
All right, you are one of the petitioners in this matter. So as I indicated, if you could start by establishing, spelling your full name for the record, and then your interest as a resident of the town.
My name is Ronald Wickham, Ronald Wickham. My home record is 50029 2nd Avenue, Markville, Minnesota. And I also own additional properties in Markville.
And you were one of the petitioners and signed the petition, is that correct?
That's correct.
And if you could explain your perspective for the benefit of the county board members as to why you believe that they should take action to require the board to take action on the property or on the stretch of street called Roy Street.
So up to this point, as of at least May of 2023, when I was back there, back in Minnesota, I tried to get to my property, which is on the other side of the Gandy Dancer, which I have an easement from the end of Roy Street across the DNR property to my property. And that Roy Street and part of the easement area there had been blocked by bushes, debris, looked like there's a trailer, maybe a lawnmower. Anyways, a bunch of stuff was blocking the road and blocking the access to my property back there. I talked to, expressed my concern to the board, and up to this point, nobody's been able to do anything about getting that area cleared, so I have access to my property.
All right, let me back that up a little bit. You said May of 2023 2023. Do you have a more specific date within May of 2023 you did that?
I know at one point it was Memorial Day weekend. I don't have, let me see if I can pull up the calendar. To get you exact date, but
That's okay. If it was Memorial Day weekend of 2023, I think we can take what we in court would call judicial notice of when that is. So in my report, I'll be able to.
and that's,
You
okay.
said
And that's when,
you,
at least at that point, it had been blocked. So,
All right. You indicated you addressed concerns, spoke, or somehow brought this attention of the town board. One of the issues that the county board has to decide is whether the town board has acted appropriately or not. So I need you to explain more detail, as much detail as you can, who you talked to, when, and what were the nature of those concerns you expressed.
the people that I've talked to is Cheryl Wickham, who is the town clerk, and she addressed it to the board members on my behalf. And I've also talked with Bob Brewster about the situation also.
And when did you do that, sir?
That's been ongoing from that point, from, like I say, May of last year, at least May. It might have even been prior to that, but May of last year for sure. And I've had several conversations with them over the last, whatever it's been, 9 months.
You know about when your most recent conversation was?
The last one that I had with Bob would have been in February, around 8th, I think. And with Cheryl, it would have been within the last week or two. I don't have an exact date for you.
When was the last time you physically sought to visit the property? Your property by using Roy Street?
The last time I was there is when I was home on leave. And that would have been June of last year. And I can tell you the date, the last date that I was there. And that would have been the last time that I tried. I know I've talked to my brother-in-law, who's been trying to maintain the property for me up there, cut the grass and stuff, and he has not been able to get across that easement this entire time either. Sorry, my computer's going really slow to pull up the date that I was there.
That's okay. We've got all afternoon. I saw a couple county board members cringe when I just said, I never thought that's supposed to be. All right. What do you think is an appropriate way for the town to be directed, or to the town take action to make the road passable?
To either inform the person who is blocking the road to remove the stuff, or have it removed by whatever means they have to do that. So, I have a contractor come in and haul it away, whatever. And just to follow up, the day that I left there was the 4th of June. And I did drive by the area there on that date before we left to see if it was passable at that point also.
By 4th of June, obviously we're talking June of 2023.
Correct.
Board members, do you have any questions of witness?
Just to clarify on the
Again,
February
Commissioner, if you could make sure.
Pat Ludwig, Pine County Commissioner,
Thank you.
on the access on the February 25th, I did. Is that the last time? I guess. That February. Is that notifying the board that he couldn't have access?
Mr. Wickham, did you hear the commissioner's question?
No, it was very faint. I can't make out what he's saying.
Commissioner's question was your reference to February 2024. he wanted to know what you had done on February 2024. Attempt to access, or if that was a conversation with the town board representative.
That was a conversation.
But you did go out.
Commissioner, if you could,
Oh, I'm sorry, Lovegren. But you did go out there in June 4th, or during your time home in June. You did go out there and you still could not get onto the property. So you did view it at that point in time and were not able to access your land.
That's correct. And that was the last time I personally was there. Like I said, my brother-in-law, he's been trying to get through there ever since then to make it over to the property to cut the grass and stuff over there, and hasn't been able to make it across the end of Roy Street and across the easement to the property.
if you could identify your brother-in-law by name, please.
That'd be Brent Morrison.
How
I
do
have a
you,
question.
how do you spell the last
Oh,
name?
sorry.
Morrison.
Commissioners, any other questions?
JJ had one.
Yeah, I have a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I guess, do we have, I was trying to look on Google Earth. You must have photos of the obstruction of the right of way, and then I'd like to see that. And then also, how wide a right of way are we actually talking about here? How wide? Is it a 66 foot, 33 foot? And is the entire, right of way blocked?
Do you have with you the petition?
I have to look. Yeah, I actually do. Right. That's all in there. I didn't see any photos, though. I guess I gave up at that point when I didn't see any photos. But you have no photos of the share?
The petition
Didn't know if
does,
you'd have it, with part of your, okay, it's not.
if you look on Exhibit H, and then the next document after Exhibit H purports to be a photograph, that's what's part of the record right now. We'll see if anybody submits additional evidence, but right now that's what we have for photographic depiction as part of the record.
And is a regular 66 foot wide right away? Said it's part of the Gandhi dance, or is it just like a narrow trail then, or?
Those are good questions. I'm not sure if this witness is in a capacity to answer them, or if that may have to be solved by someone else. Mr. Wickham, are you able to answer any of the commissioner's questions about?
I don't have the
anything?
dimensions of the actual Roy Street. I know that the easement that comes off of that, my property, is should be 33 feet wide. But the road, I'm not sure how far that is. Out here. Question from the town board.
Thank you.
Any other questions of board members? All right, then thank you for your testimony, Mr. Wickham. You can, of course, this is a public meeting, so you're welcome to stay as much as you or leave as you see fit. But I'm going to now ask the next witness, and I just realized, Mr. Wickham, I think I forgot because you're remote, you escaped my, I'm going to do this in retrospect. Mr. Wickham, do you swear or affirm that under penalty of perjury, the information you've just provided in testimony is the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. I won't make that mistake twice now that we got live bodies here to catch my attention. With that, our next witness that has asked to present testimony for this proceeding looks like Bob. I'm guessing that's the Robert Brewster that was referenced and that we have is, if you would, please. Go ahead and take a seat. And if you could identify yourself by name and address as well for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Robert Brewster. I'm a resident of Arna Township. Last month I retired as zoning administrator, had been zoning administrator for 41 years. My address is 47196 Whit Lane in Markville.
Okay.
55072.
Thank you. And before we get into your substance of your testimony, do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth?
I do.
All right, so you've already told us before you were giving us a little bit of background about your experience in terms of zoning commissioner for the town. If you could explain a little bit more about your background familiarity, particularly with Roy Street and that area of traveled roadway.
Sure. First of all, I'm the person that wrote the petition and submitted it. Roy Street, and I can address Commissioner Waldheim's question earlier. Roy Street is part of the plat of the original town site of Markville as recorded by the Sioux Line Railroad, which the town of Markville actually was recorded in two pieces. The first piece in 1914 and the second piece in 1915, of which Roy Street is the second edition. So being a plat, it's recorded in the county courthouse and is also available at the county surveyor's office, with the township, any number of places. Being a platted road, it's been surveyed, it is 35 feet wide. It runs in its full length from First Avenue to the Gandy Dancer, but is not part of the Gandy Dancer Trail. It is part of a town road of the town of Markville, being part of a plat. So, I don't know if, you want to ask questions as the points come up here, or?
Yes, I will. So you've established the Roy Street platted, as you say, from First Avenue to the Gandy Dancer Trail, which of course was a former Sioux Line Railroad track bed.
Yes.
And under the Rails to Trail program became a state trail. Is that right?
Right.
And so for that stretch of road, is it paved? Can you tell us about the condition of that street?
Well, it serves the person along the road is probably, a town block is 300 feet. So the length of Roy Street would be 300 feet. Okay, the only person that lives there full time, with Mr. Wickham being in the military right now, and he has his homestead wherever he wants. He has his homestead with the land that he bought west of the Gandy Dancer and uses Roy Street to get to his land, which, as addressed in the petition, is his only means to his property. And along that issue, I'd like to reiterate in the petition, although I failed to give written documentation. So I suppose at this point, technically, if we were in a courtroom, it would be an unsubstantiated allegation, but it can be easily confirmed. I took the trouble of calling the wetland specialist for the county that administers wetlands. And you would see with Mr. Wickham's property that it does border on the north, County Road 25, which is blacktopped, but that portion of the property is entirely wetland. And the wetland people informed me that they would not give Mr. Wickham an alternate driveway to his property, the high ground of which is at the south end of the property, because the scope of Minnesota statutes 8420, which is the wetland regulations, is such that the purpose of the wetland regulations is to preserve to the maximum extent possible wetlands. And if he had no alternate choice, they would grant him to build a driveway crossing and emptying wetlands to get there. But since he already has a route there, they would not give him an alternate route through the wetlands to get to his property. So as I understand from the evidence I gathered, Mr. Wickham is limited to Roy Street to get to his property. All considerations being made.
And the discussion you're talking about now is the legal requirement for suitable and convenient access to a public roadway from a parcel of property, is that correct?
Yes, yes,
You indicated that you were the primary author of the petition itself.
yes,
Did I understand that correctly?
yes.
What prompted you to initiate the petition and find the signature?
Because this has gone on for quite a long time, a number of years, which is related directly to, I was going to bring two more exhibits. I know I already have exhibits A through H in the petition, which is probably a little over the top, but to confess my own ineptitude, I left them on top of my dresser at home to bring them. I had them made in triplicate and numbered, so I do not have them on paper to hand, but I could give the verbal testimony in regard to the two issues. Primarily, if you go to the petition, which has each of the topics as me being the author of it, item number 5, which is at the top of page 2 of the petition. It talks about some of the history here to this road. And, you know, the two exhibits that I failed to bring along were a little bit of, if you will, a needle in a haystack in regards to when had this issue come up previously. And we all remember, some years ago at a town board meeting, I know that we talked about this, but exactly which meeting was it at? Which after I already submitted the petition, I got those two documents and I was going to present them as exhibits I and J, continuing the numbering from the petition. But like I say, I don't have a paper copy of that. But anyway, the relevance is at the October 2018 town board meeting, which is 5 years ago, the owner of the land of the son of which, who is obstructing Roy Street, which I know living there, who has done it. The father came to a town board meeting and wanted to abandon the last part of Roy Street. And to bring this together full circle, if you will, I really never finished answering Mr. Waldheim's question about what's the status of Roy Street. So let me digress just very, very briefly, please. That
Before you do that, let me ask you, when you reference events at the town October 2018 town board meeting, were you physically there that day?
yes,
So you are testifying of your own observations of things you saw?
Yes.
observed. Along those same lines, the petition is not under oath, but are you willing to, under penalties of perjury, indicate that the content, to the best of your knowledge and information of the petition, is true and correct as if it were a notarized statement?
yes.
Go ahead then, please.
Okay, so Roy Street being the blocks in the town site being a square 300 feet by 300 feet, and this being block 7 of the town site of Markville. So Roy Street covers the south edge of the town site, so it's 300 feet long. The person I'm talking about as the father of the obstructor, if you will, their personal driveway is off of Roy Street about in the neighborhood of 2/3 the way down the length of Roy Street. So something like 200 feet, starting from First Avenue, which is, the main access point of what the, town Markville is a small town. Basically, it's a crossroad. So the north-south crossroad then is First Street. So Roy Street branching to the west from First Avenue you would go 200 feet to the obstructor's property, their dwelling and driveway is there. So the obstructed part is the westernmost 70 feet, if you will, from their driveway on over to the Gandy itself. The condition of the road is it's been bladed.
Okay.
Yes. So I mean, that narrows down exactly where it is. The condition is because that's where the traffic is until Mr. Wickham retires and lives there. The lack of traffic has made that last 70 feet not needed to be maintained actively by the road grader because there's no culverts, there's no gravel, there's no anything. And also as explained in the petition, it's almost like the word maintenance. The road is impassable, which is what the statute talks about as far as true maintenance in regard to, would it need brushing? No. Would it need gravel? No. Would it need culverts? No. Would it need ditching? No. You know, those things, it needs the impassable condition to be removed, to be opened up with no additional unforeseen maintenance beyond that last 75 feet or so. So that's the area of contention, if you want, the westernmost 75 feet. Now, the obstructing family, because nobody uses it much, they have lawn mowed it over the years. But as is also known, a private property cannot adverse possess township property. So regardless that they've kindly mowed it for many, many years, they do not have any ownership of that land, it being a platted township road, which also recently, also in the petition, there's a case settled by the Minnesota Supreme Court last March 22nd of 2023 called the Maratska case, which in brief was a tug, if you will, tug of points of view, if you will, between the Marketable Title Act, or what's commonly known as the 40-year law, and the town in a plat, this road being a platted road. The town owns this road in what's called fee simple title. So, you know, that in addition, there's no way that an abutting property owner can make any claim whatsoever to this road, although the son of the obstructor does claim because he's lawn mowed it, and that if we open the road back up, he wants to be paid for the Kentucky bluegrass that he's planted there, which is the absurdity of the objection. So then to finish off, I'm at the end here, the October 2018 town board meeting, the landowner came to the township and wanted to abandon this last 75 feet of Roy Street, because that's approximately when Mr. Wickham had bought the land and was exploring buying from the Minnesota DNR a crossing over the Gandy Dancer Trail. He would have access on Roy Street to his property, but you cannot have a crossing over the Gandy, which I might add was $2,000 to just simply apply for a crossing of the Gandy Dancer Trail. So, which Mr. Wickham approached the town board about the status of Roy Street in order, you know, so we're talking about stuff that happened 5 years ago. So in the minutes, it says Bob said, which is me, to the person that is now obstructing this road, that to follow, don't have every Minnesota statute in my head. I believe it's 16508. It's to vacate a town road, you know, and what law you have to do that. And the law says that a petition of 8 landowners, not residents, landowners within 3 miles of the road to be abandoned can petition to the town to abandon a road, a township road. And he wondered at doing that. So I informed him then that if he so wished to apply for the abolishment of this westernmost part of Roy Street, that he needed to get 8 people to sign a petition and present it to the town board. So I believe I was not participatory to it, but in the interim then, between the October and then the following monthly town board meeting in November of 2018, I think the Wickhams and this person got together privately, had discussions, came to some terms about this last remnant of Roy Street that is not traveled very frequently, but is fully, for example, it's on the town gas tax list as being a road. So anyway, the obstructor came to the town board meeting the following month and rescinded his request to abandon the road. So these two needles in a haystack, if you will, for two town board meetings that existed 5 years ago. The points I would make is, one, this person that now claims ownership of Roy Street or part of Roy Street, having never said that I have heard that it would be under adverse possession, but in my knowledge of what's going on, that would be a logical thing for him to claim. But I think, he has not made that claim. I am the originator of that idea, not him, if that's clear. But I don't know how else he would even try to claim ownership of this piece of Roy Street. So anyway, the fact that he came and asked for it to abandon is tantamount to him acknowledging that it is indeed a town road. Why else would he come to a town board meeting asking the town to abandon it? And the town, through me, the zoning administrator, saying, this is the way you apply to the township to vacate a road, is acknowledgement by the township that they are indeed in jurisdiction of this road and they would want this kind of action in order to make such an abandonment. So an admission on both sides, to me, that, the status quo of it being a town road exists. The town board claimed it as a road. The other person on the other side, then in the subsequent meeting, abandoned his attempt to vacate the road. And finally, then with that behind us, this has gone on as reiterated several places in the presentation of the petition. You'll see, I think, 6 items in a row where I start each paragraph with on again, off again, on again, off again, on again, off again, about the town board's reaction. They're going to clear the road, then they're not going to clear the road, then they are, I leave my petition as it stands. I do not wish to alter anything of which I wrote within the petition, and it would be redundant to re-explain everything that's clearly outlined, I believe, other than questions you might have about, what's going on with this road. And I knew of the existence of Minnesota Statute 163.16. And I saw that as no other avenue to help Mr. Wickham other than going to a higher authority, if you will, which is why we're here.
I do have a number of questions. First of all, you said, I think you said you were zoning administrator for 42 years? 41, 42. What, could you tell us what your, and the board members, what your duties as zoning administrator is? I understand in small governmental units, it's often way more than on paper, if there even is on paper, but
You're
so
absolutely.
we understand your background and familiarity with what you're talking about.
You're absolutely correct, sir. I have been the zoning administrator and we've had a number of revisions, matter of fact, in the late 70s, I was a town board supervisor, but because you should not be both a supervisor and a zoning administrator concurrently, because if I, as zoning administrator, would deny somebody something, we have the method of a board of appeals. To the town board serves as the board of appeals and adjustments. And if I sat on the town board, a person would appealing back to the person that originally denied him in the first place. So I have not participated as a supervisor in the town board, mostly for that reason.
Does your zoning duties on that land?
Yeah, I was going to go on. Yeah. I have had I don't know exactly how to put, I've had a strong interest in the law, just my personal self. And I find it very interesting and, so with the town board, we've had, at least two different attorneys over the years. Most of the cases that have been legal cases have been zoning issues. So I have largely been the person to contact the township attorney going back quite a ways in regard to zoning violations and making appearances in court and so on and so forth. Around the year 2000, the township was very interested in a nuisance ordinance, which is a, if you will, a junky looking yard ordinance, which is not a zoning ordinance. And it kind of fell to me, I would say not by any actual, vote and a motion and a second by the town board, but just, if you will, by default, that I would be the one to talk to the attorney about the particulars of adopting a nuisance ordinance and cleaning the town up. So that kind of made me in charge of the, outside the strict duties, as you anticipated, the duties that I've had are outside of just strictly zoning. And the other part of that was also as zoning administrator, you would have a planning commission that would go along with the zoning. And the town board appointed me officially as the chairman of the planning commission. It's a 5-man board. And I run as zoning administrator, I run the planning commission meetings. So one of the duties assigned to the planning commission was, again, this nuisance ordinance. The idea being that 5 members of the township, being the planning commission, that represented, if you will, I think quite commonly, even a school district would have the PTA, which has a function with the school district. So there's, from federal to state to county to township government, there's all kinds of boards that are assigned to help with the main body to assist with taking some of the burden off the main body, because of the county board meeting or township board meetings, they already have plenty to do. So the nuisance ordinance pretty much was dumped on the planning commission. The idea being that nothing would be brought forward as a nuisance unless a majority vote of the planning commission would recommend first of all, it would be declared a nuisance because the planning commission said so. And then they would attempt A, B, C, D, E, whatever they could to abate the nuisance. And if there was no solution, then they would make a recommendation to the town board, who governs the spending of money, on whether to pursue the matter in court or not. So my involvement with that got me into other things that are strictly, if you will, trans zoning, and then it goes from there. So other board members have called the attorney for the township and are freely able to do so. Most of the routine, because I'm kind of involved with it, the town board, again, maybe more unofficially, if you will, has just simply asked me to call the township attorney, what's the answer to this, what's the answer to that, and so on and so forth. So it's just kind of fallen in my lap, if you will.
Now, your testimony and your exhibits reflect that Royce Street, as platted in your exhibit, would be a method by which a member of the traveling public could reach the Gandy Dancer Trail. Is that
Yes.
correct? And the Gandy Dancer Trail is, just for the record, everybody in this room probably knows it better than I do, but what exactly is it?
That was formerly the Sioux Line, is just how the town opened up in 1914, as I said earlier. And then the last railroad train went from St. Paul to Duluth Superior, mostly, up through the Depression and World War II. There was, train service. People go shopping in Duluth on this railroad. The last train went through town in the 1980s. The water tower is the last existing train water tower, and it got moved to Beaver Bay, Minnesota, and sits there still as a functioning water tower.
What is the trail today, though?
Yeah, I believe 1990, well, just in the late 80s, the railroad pulled up all the tracks and the steel and the ties. And it sat there as an empty former right of way. And then the state of Minnesota, through the process of hearings and so forth, in fact, even came to the county board back then to purchase, and I think they purchased the Gandy Dancer for $90,000 in 1990 from the crossing over the St. Croix River, which is the border between Minnesota and Wisconsin, Danbury, Wisconsin. From there in Minnesota up to the Carleton County line for $90,000. And then they made the DNR snowmobile wintertime, four-wheeler summertime trail of the Gandy Dancer.
Now, the board is to hear testimony that because of neglect of a town road, it is not reasonably passable. When was the last time you saw the property, the Roy Street?
Today,
And when you saw it today, did it appear to you to be reasonably passable?
yes,
And so if it is today reasonably passable, the entire length of,
no, I'm sorry, is it passable or
is it passable was my question?
no, excuse me.
Okay,
I too have bad hearing.
because when you say it's not passable, what did you observe? And I should tell you, I was there as well, but I'm building a record for the commissioners who perhaps haven't.
Well, there's some vehicles, I mean, because I know the width of the road and I know if you're sharp of the eye, you can see from 50, 60 years ago when the town was much more of a town than it is today, kind of where the road was maintained. There's kind of an undulation in the ground, but like I say, it's not blatant or obvious what the width of Roy Street is. So there's some vehicles, there's tree branches, and I did not drive down there. I observed it from First Avenue, so I did not see it from 5 feet away. I saw it from 200 feet away, and it looked like possibly there's a pile of gravel on the road as well.
And what would, in your estimation, your view, especially, and I'm asking you this question perhaps more than anybody else, given your history as a zoning land use person, what in your view would be necessary if the board were to agree that it's currently impassable? What would it be? What would the remedial measure be necessary to make it passable and in compliance with the statutes?
That's a good question, actually, sir. I know if I just a very brief digression. We also have old alleys that are being occupied by people. And we've been informed by our township attorney to prosecute them to open up old alleys. It would be incumbent upon the township to pay a surveyor to reestablish the actual survey lines, you know, to delineate to the inch, if you will, precisely where the road is. Now, I believe that I could go out there on my own with an accuracy of 1 foot on each side and tell you where Roy Street is. But I suppose technically speaking, that would be an opinion, not a fact. So it's pretty obvious where Roy Street is. And I do not know that Mr. Wickham would need all 35 feet of it. That's quite a bit of width for one-way traffic, but the Gandy Dancer people, because the same person that was obstructing Roy Street also claims to own the Gandy Dancer Trail from the state of Minnesota himself. The DNR is now going to come and refresh survey lines from delineating the borders of the Gandy Dancer Trail itself. Part of that would then be to establish by survey, if you will, the north side of Roy Street with the east side of the Gandy. That marker would, and once that marker was there, a simple tape measure would tell you where 35 feet to the south of that point would be. You know, it'd be an easy thing to do. And there may even be, I do not know from memory or from my experience, there could be old survey markers of the town, but they're also could be. I do not know definitively. They may be in jeopardy of having been moved, which would be illegal by the same recalcitrant property owner. So
So
does
one,
that answer, is that what you're looking for?
in part, so one suggested remedy, and I'm using, I guess, as a quasi expert, one suggested remedy to make the road passable, maybe to define its parameters, but what else would you determine that this board would be directing the town to do?
Well, you have tree branches. The vehicles, I don't know, would you want it depends on how you wanted it cleared. A simple tractor backhoe, piece of equipment could chain onto vehicles and drag them over onto the abutting properties. Or we actually have a no parking ordinance in the township and a contract with Bruno Deep Rock in Asco for a towing service. So these vehicles could be towed by Bruno Deep Rock through the township if they so elected. So in the case of vehicles, that's how they could be disposed of. If the gravel was substantiated, then you would take a grader bulldozer of some kind to move gravel, I suppose. I suppose part of deciding what equipment would be needed to make a better inventory, if you will, of what is actually on Roy Street. And then determine we'd need this, that, and whatever else to remove those items. I do not have a thorough, exhaustive, definitive list, sir.
You mentioned that, and again, I don't need to get into a lot of hearsay recommendations and so on about attorneys recommending alleys be, you use the word prosecuted. What do you mean by the term prosecuted? And here's why I'm asking. If there's a statute or ordinance that would be violated by use of the alley, would that not be applicable to obstruction of Roy Street as well?
Yes.
And what, if any, efforts, to your personal knowledge, and maybe you don't know, has any effort been made to look into whether or not the current situation is subject to criminal investigation?
Well, the township had exhibit F in the petition specifically is dated July 24th, 2023. Is at that time in July of 2023, the township, with the assistance of Mike Curry of Curry and Rupee, who's the attorney for the township, he sent to me a template, if you will, of a ordinance that the township adopted in July. It was authored by Mr. Curry based on another jurisdiction that has a similar ordinance. And the purpose of the ordinance is when a letter has been sent to a person that obstructs a road, some time period recommended to be 30 days. I don't know that it's required to be 30 days. The person is giving a warning to remove the obstruction from the town road, alley, or whatever you might have. And if they don't, then the township will go there and do it. And the ordinance then, because of the notifications and the statute so cited in the ordinance, the township then has the ability to bill the abutting property owner for the removal of the material. Just exactly the same thing as, if you will, of this level of 163.16, that if the county board would mandate the township to remove it and they don't in the time period allowed, then the county can go remove it and charge the township for it. Exactly like that, the township can now do the same thing with the abutting property owner. And the township attorney was retained to send that letter. That's exhibit F, as I say in the petition. It's marked about halfway down the relevant part. There's a number of other issues, but that's certainly a prominent part of that letter from the attorney. So the town board did that. 30 days later, in August 24th of 2023, I was not there. I believe the township chairman looked at it. I think these people came out and essentially chased people off the road, and the matter kind of fell through the cracks of the town board, if you will.
And just for the record, Exhibit F that you've submitted is dated July 24th, 2023 by a certified mail to a Gary Erickson, 78201 Roy Street, Markville, Minnesota, 55072. It is a letter sent by the law firm of COURI and RUPPE in relative to Arna Township ordinance violations, where it did direct abatement of the nuisance by August 23, 2023. To your personal knowledge, was any follow-up action taken by the town board or the town attorney when the order was not complied with?
Other than, as I say, I think a town board chairman. I wasn't there. What I understood from discussion at a town board meeting was that the town chairman went there. And I guess that person would have to speak for themselves as to why. I could only speculate why. The end result is nothing was done. And that's part, if you follow the petition, I've had this in my different paragraphs, on again, off again, on again, off again, on again. We're going to do something, then we're not going to do something, then we are going to do something, then we're not going to do something. And it's gone that way for a year. Besides, as from my earlier testimony, it's actually been going on for 5 years. And enough is enough is enough. There's no other solution than to come to the county board. And I think the county board should, prevail in this issue at this point in time.
Well, let me read into the record for your benefit, and I'll read you the passage that I'm interested in. And again,
Okay, sure.
if you were not been so deeply involved, I wouldn't be doing this, because you're a direct witness and it's not hearsay coming from you.
Exactly.
The letter states to Gary Erickson, if the nuisances described in paragraph 2 above are not abated by August 23, 2023, parentheses, those items described in paragraph 2 above must either be removed from the property, but not stored outside or on other properties in Arna Township or stored indoors, end of parentheses. The township will commence a court action in Pine County District Court seeking to abate the nuisances, and will seek to recover all costs of such abatement, including attorney's fees and court costs from you, and will special assess such costs against the properties upon which the nuisances are abated. Is it your testimony that the town board did not do that?
Yes.
So as part of your petition to make of what in your view would make the road passable, if the town commenced such an action and it prevailed, would that solve the problem? Would that be a remedy?
Yes, it would.
I don't have any other questions of this witness. I wonder if perhaps some of the commissioners will. So
I have one.
let's
Okay,
let the
sure.
commissioners proceed, and then we'll see.
I have one,
Commissioner Ludwig?
Matt Ludwig, Pine County Commissioner. So does Roy Street terminate at Gandy Dancer?
Yes.
And I thought I heard you say you can't cross Gandy Dancer?
Well, Mr. Wickham has an easement over the Gandy there.
Oh, okay, so he has an easement.
Yeah, you go on Roy Street, and then the easement that he purchased from the state of DNR would be an extension of Roy Street, if you will.
And then does he have any other access at all? to the
No.
Property, okay. And then.
I mean, there's a theoretical one, as I explained earlier, with the wetland
Yeah,
people,
I
but
got
that
that.
doesn't exist.
Right now, he does not have. Right. Then I have one more question. So you said it was a platted road, but then later on you were talking about, you could tell where, was it ever somewhere in history, was it a developed road at all?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, back in the 20s, 30s, when there was a potato warehouse, I mean, Commissioner,
I'm just for the.
being a resident of not far away, and you're not far off from going back maybe to your grandparents, but I think, in one capacity or another, you have a little bit of knowledge of what the area was 70, 80, 90 years ago, with the potato warehouse and a creamery and a grocery store and so on, and a bank and all those things. So, over time, so it's the remnant I'm talking about is from then. Yes, there's, I believe 6 lots going down the length of Roy Street. And today, all of them but one are owned by the Ericksons, you know, over the lapse of time. But if you go back to the heyday of Markville, if you want, well, there probably was 6 different property owners on 6 different lots
Okay.
of the town site, you know, at that time.
That's all I needed. That was perfect. Thank you.
Commissioner. Steve Holland, County Commissioner, District 1. Bob, it's kind of a follow-up to Matt's question, but did the Roy Street ever proceed past the railroad tracks?
No.
It always terminated at the railroad tracks?
Yes.
Okay. But it was platted in that part of the town so that road was platted in 1915. So it's been a road for 109 years.
The Maratska case from last year says that it always will be for eternity.
Yeah, and as far as you know, the only time there was talk of abandonment was in October of 2018, but a petition was never brought forward.
Right,
Okay.
yes.
I have-
It's just been, if you will, a continuing debate, if I'll use the word debate, between 2 abutting property owners over this issue of just when 2 property owners, you know,
But there's never been an official.
not to the town board until, you know, now it's gotten more serious because I can't speak for Mr. Wickham, but I do know, which, by the way, if I might clear up, I think Commissioner Waldheim had a question about what was, or this February, what was in February, I guess maybe it was you, Commissioner Ludwig, about what did Mr. Wickham talk about in 2014? And he said, Bob, that was I in the process of authoring this petition. That Mr. Wickham is how I pulled the needle out of the haystack for which month was it when this happened about, you know, abandoning and then retracting the abandoning. It was with Mr. Wickham's help to say, you know, when was that? And he goes, you know, after some thought, you know, it was in 2018 and it was in the fall. Well, I mean, that narrows down a lot. I mean, you start looking through years and years and years of old town board meetings to pin down what I've called a needle in the haystack. So Mr. Wickham can speak for himself if you wish additional testimony. You know, that's very much of the conversation I had with Mr. Wickham on or around February 24th of 2023 in its relationship to that whole issue. So yes, it's been going on for 5 years.
Commissioner?
Yep, Terry Lovegren, District 3. So Bob, you said that the road used to be a working road, that people drove on it and that people lived there. When would you say that Markville or Arna Township quit maintaining that road, or quit? Approximately when did people quit using it other than the people that are on there now?
I don't really know.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you.
It's maintained to the Erickson's driveway because they drive on it.
Mhm.
It's been mowed, it's fine. Mr. Wickham has no problem, other than the deliberate obstructions that don't belong there. With the minor amount of traffic, as I said earlier, I don't think it would even need any maintenance in the traditional sense of the word.
No, I was just wondering,
Maintenance, you know,
I was
it's
just wondering
just-
about how long ago it had been used.
right. But my understanding of the platted road, it doesn't matter if it's ever been maintained or not. I'm not contending with your question at all. I don't mean to. If, you know, please don't interpret
There's
me.
such a wealth of information. I was just, I figured
Right,
you
right.
would
It is just,
answer.
like I said, you know, there's a difference between an unplatted, you know, most unplatted roads come under what's called the 6-year rule. Broadly, there are exceptions. And most platted roads are locked in tight.
Yep, I understand that. Thank you.
Commissioner?
I have a question.
District 2. So just to kind of try to stay somewhat on Roy Road or the point here, the road itself, I was just looking on Beacon, and it looks like the DNR easement goes right up to the DNR property goes up to the end of the Roy Road there. So is the road itself blocked? And that's what we're talking about, right? Not the easement?
Yes.
Okay, so.
There are other issues between this property on the Gandy, but they're not in regard to Mr. Wickham's access.
Okay. And all we're worried about is the road itself, what,
Right, and there's not 1 inch of private property between the western end of Roy Street and the eastern edge of the Gandy. Roy Street touches the Gandy with nothing, not even 1 inch of anybody in between the two.
And Commissioner, just so remember, the focus here is the passability of a public town road under 160, under 16316.
Right.
This is not about Mr. Wickham or anyone else's access, because by definition, a town road is open to all members of the traveling public. And if they want to go visit Mr. Wickham, or if they want to go to the trail and use it for bicycling or whatever other function, subject to parking regulations, so and so on. So this is about a public roadway. I won't be focusing on Mr. Wickham's access or lack thereof. That certainly would be.
I got a question.
That would certainly potentially be an eminent domain or other issue, but you're absolutely right, Commissioner. This is about the road, Roy Road and all.
perfect.
Thank you,
Commissioner,
sir.
I think you had a question.
Yeah, Commissioner Waldam, District 4. You mentioned the actual survey of this property, Roy Street, First Avenue. So there is now not a current survey done with, every touching piece of this situation. Not only Andy, but first there isn't by a licensed surveyor that's not been surveyed. So we know exactly legally where the road is.
Not to the inch, no. I mean, the town was in the process of platting 110 years.
Yep, I understand that. It's just there's been situations I've seen where the plat's one thing. I come from a small town, northern Pine County, Sturgeon Lake. Those plats, and even the properties were small 50-foot lots. Sometimes the plat actually doesn't, match the legal description of the survey. The other thing, you said there are other streets blocked or have been blocked in your city.
In the town site, there's some people blocking some alleys at present. Yes, it's not germane. I mean, I'm happy to answer your question. Don't mistake my answer.
No, I'm just trying to get more information as well, trying to understand what's going on.
Well, there's a lot going on in the township right now. A lot of, it's too much for this hearing to cover all of that. It's been one amongst many issues. Yes, there are.
But in relation to okay, so just to stay with this, so what did you do as a city to open up the other blocked areas, or what did you have? Because I'm not familiar with this hearing. This is my first one.
I would say probably one of the biggest issues have been money.
Okay.
To be able to, I mean, it's expensive in a township. Arna population is around 100 people. 40% of the township is state forest. 2/3 of the people that own land are non-residents. Our budget is very limited.
Yep, I understand. So you have other streets or alleys blocked right now though, correct?
There is one alley in particular with a person we've been to court with twice. And he keeps, reintroducing the thing that we've gone to court over. And we've exhausted over $50,000 of township money. And he's been uncooperative, and he's reestablished his nuisance with impunity. And it's simply a matter of dollars. The township has not gone after him a third time. I don't know if you have experience in nuisance ordinances, but we even have an injunction from the last time that we went there, and the town is still doing nothing. We know we have other problems in addition to those. I have proposed to the township, there's a thing called a boundary commission that would take some explanation, but I have offered to the town to hire a surveyor to mark some of these places. I mean, just the routine business of myself issuing building permits. I don't want to give anywhere a building permit with somebody building a building in the town road. And I need to know exactly throughout the town where the line is, and I can tell you approximately, and I've on a pragmatic basis administered all this time without any violations where the approximate lines are, and we've kept us out of court over those kinds of issues.
But again, Mr. Brewster, Commissioner, we are, as one of your colleagues pointed out, this is about we're not gonna solve all of the township's issues here. This is about 300 feet of Rice Street.
Could I-
So if you have any closing comments to make relative to that 300 feet of Rice Street.
Okay, I will. In regard to Mr. Aldheim's questions last, at the east end of Roy Street, there's the road sign that the county puts up, you know, there's a post in the top, you know, one way it says First Avenue, the green signs. Okay, and at the east end of Roy Street, I could slam dunk the 35 feet right there because we had a recent issue in a survey, which I won't elaborate, it takes too much time, but you know, the problem would be with that kind of precision, projecting westward 300 feet and calling your angle tangent. You know, I mean, I know exactly within 35 feet at this end of Roy Street where Roy Street is, but 300 feet down there, is it like that or like that or like that? You know, without a surveyor, you're not going to say exactly to the inch where the road is. So we're darn close, but not exact. The last point, can I have just 15 seconds to read my notes here, please?
Sure.
Very quick, just to, yeah. Okay, the last thing, and I don't know, if I could ask your, I'd like to make a request, if you will, of the board. I know what finding a fact is, and you know, you're gonna make a conclusion and submit it to the county board in that. If you feel it is within your jurisdiction, could you address the issue of this being a recurrent problem where whether it's the town or the county clears the road, I think there's a strong possibility that this person will come and obstruct the road again. And if it comes to that, what position are at least the petitioners in? Do we need to readdress this entire thing from step one all over again? Assuming I'm blue skying ahead. I'm assuming that the county board is going to order this road to be open. And if it does, knowing the people involved, my testimony would be there's an extremely strong possibility that the road is impassable in the future through, you know, and then we get to all the things in court, like, did you personally see him do it? Or do you just know that he did it? And, you know, I see the county attorney is here and he could address all those kinds of issues of what's admissible in court and what's not. I would appreciate, you know, if 163.16 is beyond those kinds of considerations, then that's up to you to determine, sir.
The authority of the county board is established by 163.16 that talks about impassable roads and their immediate remedy. It does not speak to prospective injunctive relief. So other forums will may have to address that. One would hope not, but if they do, they do. But this board, I won't be making recommendations about future actions.
I suspected as much.
I can only make recommendations and they only have the authority over matters that are set in the statute. But thank you for your inquiries. Commissioners, any other questions of this witness? No. All right.
No, I don't want to, but these
we've
buttons
been-
are close to each other, so.
For a bit, let's take a 10-minute break. And unlike what some of you used to with judges that say 10-minute break, I actually mean it. So based on that clock on the wall, we'll be back here at 2:30. We are unmuted. All right, we were muted during our recess. We are back as promised, 10 minutes later, unmuted and back on the record. We're going to proceed with the next individual who has signed up to testify on behalf of the petitioner and or supporting of the petitioner's witnesses. Third on the list is Andrew Allen, Allen. If Andrew Allen can come forward, please.
Oh, I didn't necessarily need to want to say anything.
All right, we're certainly not going to make you.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Well, I'm not going to make you, but
No.
powers that be. All right, those were the three individuals that asked to sign up to testify in support of the petition for the board to declare this section of Roy Street to be an impassable travel way and to order the town to take appropriate action. I will ask if there are any other witnesses who wish to speak in support of the petition. Like an auctioneer, going once, going twice. All right, that does not preclude someone from testifying in rebuttal or supplementing the record, but I'm going to take it for procedural purposes as the petitioner, well, essentially, if they were represented by counsel, resting their case in chief. And since in an odd way, this is, well, if there is a equivalent to a civil defendant in this case, it would be representatives of the town who allegedly have allowed the road to become impassable. We do have a number of representatives from the town who have signed up. The first of those appears to wish to speak and testify remotely. According to our record, that is Derek, Darrick. If I'm looking at the spelling right on this cursive, it's Sweats. Derek Sweets. Is Derek Sweets available? Oh, I see a name on the screen. Look at that. I was able to decipher the handwriting too, because at least the name on is equally misspelled to the one on my written sign-up sheet. So welcome. And if you could, from an under oath standpoint, acknowledge to either swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth. If you do that, please.
I do.
And with that, if you could state your full name, as we said, spell your name for the record and your title or position on behalf of the town.
It's Derek Sweats, Darrick, Sweats. I'm a 3-year supervisor for the Arna Township.
And were you able to hear the testimony that has happened so far today?
Yes.
As you know, the petition here is to direct the township to be required to take certain action on a stretch of Roy Street in the township that the petition alleges to be impassable. What is your familiarity with Roy Street and its current condition?
Well, like it has been said, it's, it comes off of First Avenue and it's not passable. I'll say that. You can't get through.
All right. Because it's your acknowledgement, and when you say it's not passable, is this your personal position or is this a position you're taking in your capacity as elected town supervisor or both?
Both.
What does the town intend, if anything, to do? And one of the things that we learn in law school is higher bodies are not obligated to have authority to direct lower bodies, lower governments to do things that they intend to voluntarily do on their own. But what, wearing your official capacity hat, recognizing you are only one of several votes, then as a corporate body, just like these commissioners can only act as a body. But what is the town's explanation for allowing an impassable road?
Well, we have tried to have it opened. and not fully open, but just enough to pass through. We asked our grader operator when there was no vehicles in the way to push the brush that's in the way out of the way. And he refused. And at that point, I guess everybody was scared of retaliation. So we decided to send it to the county.
And when you say your operator, who was that you asked to do that?
Doug Weta.
And why did Doug Weeda refuse to do that?
He's friends with the people blocking the road, is my understanding.
And follow up, please, on the explanation that you just, I see you on two screens. I think I'm trying to make eye contact with you. And then on the other hand, I think I've got my back to you. So I apologize for that.
Oh, no, it's fine.
But, when you say that the town decided to basically proceed with this route, what do you mean by that?
The town board members are scared of the people, basically. They're I don't know. They're scared of them for retaliation. If we open it up, we're scared they're going to come after us. Because we've been threatened over it, I believe, multiple times.
How would this, assuming for a moment that the county board determines, yes, the road is impassable, and certainly your statements, I appreciate your candor. So the town, if the county board were to make a determination that the petitioner's point has been made and they direct or order the town to take action, what's going to happen?
That's a good question. I believe at the last meeting, when we discussed this at the meeting, we ultimately had talked about just letting the county give us our 30 days and then let the county deal with it, because everybody's scared of retaliation. That's literally the reason it's not open, is because everybody's scared of retaliation.
The town does recognize that this is not, that if the county ends up taking action, it would not be done at county expense, but town expense, does it not? Or does it?
Correct. And my understanding, it would be then we would ultimately transfer that expense to the property owner, is my understanding. And I think that's why the town board elected to go this route.
There was testimony about lawyers on behalf of the town advising the person who was perceived to be obstructing the roadway that they would be subject to a lawsuit. There was also testimony that has not happened despite the threat to bring an action. Do you know, sir, why that's the case?
I do not.
Is there anything else you would like the county board to be aware of before I open the door and ask if they have any questions of you?
I forget which commissioner asked, but about a survey. It was stated that we refused to do a survey to get these roads and properly surveyed, when in reality it wasn't a refusal, it was a lack of money and a lack of a surveyor. That basically is why it's not surveyed up to date, I guess.
Do you think, in your own opinion, would a survey to establish exactly where the lines of the street would be useful?
Honestly, no, I don't. I think it'd just be, it's already established. Basically, it's just there's stuff in the way.
Right. So the big issue is clearing the matters out of the way so members of the traveling public can again use the street from your perspective?
Correct.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
No, you're correct.
Commissioners, do you have any questions of the witness?
I do. Terry Lovegren, 3rd District again. You had mentioned that you were afraid of retaliation and you were going to give the gentleman 30 days to clean it up, and then you were going to have the county take care of it. What are your expectations for the county to take care of it? For
Oh,
us,
As
direction.
far as I understood is they would come in and clean it up and we would be billed for it. And then we would transfer that amount that we were billed to the property owner that is blocking the said road. That's my understanding. And if I'm wrong, I apologize, but at the meeting, that's what I understood.
No, that's fine. I just wanted your clarification on that. Thank you.
Yep.
Our remote commissioner, any questions of the witness?
We can't hear
I
you.
think you're on
JJ.
mute.
No, he unmuted, but we can't hear you. No. Did your batteries die? Oh. Oh, he's gone.
I lost him.
He had something in the chat a couple minutes ago that he had a bad internet connections.
Yes.
Steve Holland, I'm just curious if, I don't know the gentleman that, at all, but if you guys are not comfortable about being retaliated against,
There.
should I be nervous?
If you lived in Markville, I would be, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Thank you for you're
Oh,
back.
okay.
Did you have any
Yeah,
questions?
there's some connectivity and then the buttons are close to here. Too big a finger. No, just the only thing, I guess, where I'm a little reluctant to, I'd like to know for certain where I was going with the survey thing is just for certainty of, knowing exactly where these property boundaries and stuff are. That's, I guess, how I think things go is you have to have a survey. You have to certain. I mean, that's why we have the surveys, property corners and everything established. That was just my only thing. You talk retaliation and stuff. I just like to be thorough and certain with everything. Property is exactly where it's supposed to be. So
Right.
that's just it.
And I wanted to follow up on one of the commissioners' questions, Township Supervisor. When you indicate that the town board members are afraid, in what sense? Afraid of what?
These people burning your house down or physical violence. I'm not going to get into who the people are, but I'm a little scared myself, and I'm not really scared of anybody. So they could do anything. They've went as far as, I mean, they poop on the town hall steps and stuff. I mean, they're not normal people as far as thinking wise goes.
All right. Yeah, any other questions?
I do. Terry Lovegren again. So if you're afraid for your road person to go out and take care of the problem, what do we need to be feared for about with our road? I mean, I'm concerned about our.
They would need to be police escorted, I believe.
Thank you.
Commissioners? Thank you very much for your testimony. We'll then excuse you from testifying at least and move on to the next individual who has signed up on the sheet. Who I believe is is physically here. At least it doesn't show it being remote, and that is Janet, Janet, Profit, Proffit. Would Janet Profit please appear? Good afternoon. And again, if you could state your full name, spell it for the record and your address, and then we'll swear you in after that.
Janet Profit, it's Proffit. Address is 58867 Hay Creek Road, Sandstone.
And do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
And you signed up to testify on behalf as a township representative. Could you explain that a little bit, please?
I'm a supervisor. I'm also the chairman.
All right, and as the chair and the supervisor, how long have you been on the town board?
I've been on the town board for 10 years.
All right, you've sat here this far today, I believe, and listened to the testimony. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you know, we're talking about Roy Street, about 300 feet of Roy Street, and whether or not it is in fact an impassable public roadway. Share us with your perspective about that.
Well, it is. Went down and drove past there on my way here. There is a pickup and I don't know, a gator or something like that. And what I haven't seen before appears to be a pile of gravel right in the middle of. It's been graded and stuff to his property there to where he has a trailer house. And at the end of the graded part of the road is a pile of what looks like to be gravel.
How close did you get to that area?
I just stayed on First Street. I didn't drive up there. I felt it was best not to.
All right, understand. And from that distance, did it appear to you that if a member of the traveling public wished to, for example, drive to go to the Gandy Dancer to take a hike, could they get there?
Not on the trail.
Would you agree that or disagree with the statement that the road appears, that street at this time appears impassable?
It's impassable at this time.
How long have you been with the board?
10 years.
And if the road's impassable and one of the elected representatives and the board chair, why has the town not fixed that?
Well, when we tried to do anything about it, they refused to let us come on the road themselves. They've even put no trespassing signs at the end of the road, indicating that this is their claim is that this is their property, that Roy Street was given to them at some point in time. They never say when, but that they own Roy Street.
So the fact that a budding landowner claims ownership of the road and is, in your view, obstructed it, has caused the town to not pursue any action?
Well, like I said, there is a point where we don't know just how much we dare push them, because there have been threats have been made that if, we'll burn down your house. Luckily, I live a long ways from Markville. I'm glad I do. But they've been totally, they come up with the DNR doesn't own the Gandy, that this US Supreme Court has given the Gandy or given the Sioux line back to the people in 2015, that the Sioux line was given back to the people, although the DNR bought the Sioux line back in 1990. So his information is way off.
If the county board ultimately determines that the petition is correct, that the road is currently impassable, what do you think would
I
be the
think that
appropriate
would-
way to make it passable?
I think that would be good. It gives us more power, gives us something more to stand behind us when we say, you got to get this truck out of here, you need to do this, or I think it might help.
And are you speaking in your personal capacity, your official capacity as the town chair, or both?
I don't speak for the town board. I don't have the authority to speak for the town board. But this is a personal thing. Maybe it would give the town board a little more support if they know that somebody else is behind us.
I'll ask the same question I asked you, one of your colleagues. There was as Exhibit F reflects, there was a threat, promise, whatever term you want to use, a letter directing on behalf of the town that an individual take certain action by August 23rd, 2023, specifically that letter I've referenced
Mhm.
directed to Gary Erickson, Erickson, ordering essentially actions that would make that Roy Street passable, removal of vehicles, brush, shrubs, et cetera. And the letter said that if that wasn't done by August 2023, that legal action would be commenced on behalf of the town. Apparently that hasn't happened.
That
Do you know
was-
Why not?
Well, legal action costs money. And we've spent so much money that it's just almost impossible to, we don't have unlimited funds.
So is it fair to say it's a matter of fiscal resources?
That's part of it, yes.
What's the other part?
Getting somebody to do it.
You mean finding a lawyer?
Well,
Those are
but-
easy to find.
yeah, the lawyer is easy to find, but then you still have to find the people to physically go out there and, yes, we have this parking ordinance, but if I were going to have somebody to come out there and tow the truck away, I'd have to have a deputy there at the time.
Which goes back to that safety concern or
Yes.
issue that you talked
Yes.
about. So at least as an individual, I understand you're only one of three
Right.
votes. You can't bind the board. But as an individual, is it fair to say you would have no objection if the county board found this to be an impassable road and acted under the statute?
No, I wouldn't.
Commissioners, any questions for the witness?
I do not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Josh.
I do have one. Josh Moore, District 2. You stated that there was no trespassing signs at the end of Roy Road. Was that at like First Street? So like a whole portion of it?
Yeah, but
Oh.
then they did take them down again, but at one
Okay.
time that they had put them up, but they did take them down again.
Does any other, I guess I probably missed that, but does anybody else live down that road or is it just them?
Just them.
Okay, and, yeah, that was, I guess, it. I just didn't know if you meant like where he considers his property line where all this stuff
Oh, he
is.
considers the whole thing his property.
I get that. Sounds good. Thank you. That's it.
Our remote commissioner, any questions?
No, I just hear a lot of conversations about the property line boundaries. That was a great question too, how many more neighbors there are and exactly where sign placement was claimant, but not to repeat myself, wrapping my mind around the survey. Actual markers up there. That's all.
Commissioner, that's the advantage of going last. A lot of questions you might otherwise have to ask, your colleagues have taken care of for you, so you're smart. Do you have anything else that you?
No,
would
yes,
like-
very, very good questions, and it was very helpful, yeah, for him to ask that. It's on my list right here. So that's
No,
a
I
good
guess,
question, Commissioner Moore.
All right, then, we will, thank you for your testimony. Consider that closed. Next on the, list of those who wish to testify is Lynn, Lynn. For the record, Anderson, Anderson. If Lynn Anderson could come forward, please. And if you could state your full name, spelling it for the record, because I think I got it right, but who knows, and then establish your address, please.
I'm Lynn Anderson, LYNNANDERSON, 49963 First Avenue, in the town site of Markville, connecting property to the Ericksons who are in controversy over the Roy Street.
And before I proceed, then, do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth?
Yes,
So you've told us where you generally where you live. Could you tell us, what do you know about Roy Street and what its situation is? It sounds like it's close to where you live.
well, I've been on the board for approximately, it'll be 10 months. I was appointed to replace an individual that died. And since that time, I have been privy to different circumstances that have come up within the township. And one of which, within the last few months, came to my attention was Roy Street. And it was due to Jenny and Ronnie Wickham buying the property on the west side of the DNR trail. So Ronnie had established an easement with the DNR to access his property from First Avenue down Roy Street and across the trail. And as soon as the controversy started getting more and more developed, I noticed that the Ericksons were establishing their own front on Roy Street as far as putting debris up or boats or whatever it was at the time that was available for them to put on Roy Street at the access point to the DNR easement for the Wickhams. So in, I think it was the November, December meeting, it was brought to the attention that something needed to be done again, and we voted for that to be graded by Doug Weeda. And Derek at that point was appointed to have Doug, talk to Doug and have him do as much as he could to get that opened up. Well, it came back to the January meeting, and Doug Weeda showed up at the January meeting and explained that he did not wish to do that because the Ericksons were his friends, and that he more or less just plain old refused to grade Roy Street. So at that point, unknowingly for the February meeting, both Bob Brewster and I started research, and Bob started working with Ronnie in regards to a petition, and I was unaware that they had started the petition, and I started research on Roy Street to present it to the board in February. Well, I went to the board in February and presented the information that I had on Roy Street. And at the end of that meeting, Bob produced a document that this petition had been filed. So in regards to Roy Street is a street. It is well-established street. And there is on the 2018 Beacon, I believe it is, there was it showed Roy Street going through. And I think that was from 2018. And in 2023, and now Cheryl, you can help me with Munson. He did a drone flyover picture.
Yeah.
What's his name? Don Munson did a book on Markville, the area and the town site. And in there, it shows Roy Street. Eddie has an aerial photo in there that shows Roy Street and the debris at the end of Roy Street at the DNR easement entrance. So
This, Doug, do you know the spelling of?
Weeda, W-I-T-T-A?
W-I-I.
I-I-T-T-A.
And what is Doug Weeda's position with the town?
The grader,
Full-time position, contract position?
that's Cheryl's.
It's just a part-time.
We'll have you testify later, so don't jump ahead. If you don't know, you just say don't know.
Oh, I don't know exactly.
Right. That just means she's gonna spend more time on the witness stand. That's okay. When's the last time you saw Roy Street and looked down at?
Well, there was a fire down at the end of the road and I went by it. It was that fire last weekend, I think, on Sunday.
And in your view, if I wanted to drive down that Roy Street to get to the Gandy Trail or beyond, would I be able to do it with, say, for example, my car?
No,
Wow, so would you say it's impassable?
yes.
So if it's a town, if it is a public street, as you believe, and it is impassable, why has the town not done anything about it? And I know you've only been on the board 10 months, but
Mhm. Well, just the conflict between the property owner and the township in the blockage of Roy Street.
And what's your opinion of if the county board were to issue direction to the town under the statute to fix the impassability of Roy Street? What do you think?
My personal opinion
Yes.
is that they should let Pine County go in there, lay some gravel, establish street signs, whatever is required, and make it the street that it deserves to be.
Recognizing, as one of your colleagues said, you wouldn't be able to, as one person in a body that requires a vote. But it's personally, I take it then, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You would not object if this board, that being the county board, would issue an order under the statute?
I would not, no, I would not object.
Commissioners, any questions for the witness?
Thank you.
All right. Then I guess you're excused. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, next on our agenda is Cheryl, Wicham. She's already been whispering answers from the back. If this were second grade, you'd be in big trouble.
Sides of the seesaw. Oh,
And the only side I'm interested is the truth. So-
okay, that's well.
So if you could state your full name, spell it for the record and your address, and then we'll put you under oath, please.
Cheryl Wickham, Wicham. Cheryl is with the C. Cheryl, 49910 First Avenue, Markville, Minnesota.
And do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth?
I do.
So, where, do you fit in the scheme of things in terms of your duties and responsibilities with the town?
I am the town clerk.
And what does a town clerk do and how long have you done? it?
Oh, boy. That involves lots and lots, but mostly with this type thing, I would be taking the notes for the minutes of the meetings. And plus all other duties, you know, I mean,
And as clerk, you're responsible for records, documents,
records,
official
yes,
items of
definitely,
the town?
yes.
How long have you been clerk?
Since 2010, 14 years.
And you, just as you were walking up, you made the comment that you're on both sides of the issue. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm Ronnie's mother.
Okay.
And so I did sign the petition at the time because I didn't know anything else was going to be done or whatever. And I personally have asked Tracy, maybe I'm not supposed to say his name,
Yeah,
but he
there's no
lives,
rules about that.
okay,
You testify under oath to the best of your ability.
lives
and-
across the street from me. And Ronnie's property is right across the street from me. Beyond, you know, beyond the Roy Street Road. And my son-in-law had been trying all year to go over there and mow for Ronnie because Ronnie couldn't do it when he was here. And he wanted to keep it up so that, you know, it's not this high when he comes back. So I asked Tracy at many of the meetings, at least 4 or 5 meetings, if he would remove that stuff. And he said that the DNR had no right to sell Ronnie that property. He's not going to remove it. And I asked him again and again and again, and I was really nice. I said, could you remove it, you know, so Brent can get back there and mow? And he was very ignorant about it. He would not, nope. So that's the one reason I signed the petition against it, because I figured if we could get the road open, then DNR will take over from there. Because we spoke to the DNR, actually the DNR was at our meeting not last month, but the month before. She explained, totally explained to everybody that, you know, they own that property, period. And Tracy was there. He would not listen. Lynn tried to tell him 3 times, we're not taking anything from you, Tracy. We're trying to get back what's ours.
Now, again, we're not
No, I know you're not
I'm
with
not dealing
Ronnie.
with the
No, I know that.
trail and those issues.
No, I know that. I
all
realize that,
trails.
but that was my reason for getting involved in it, because to get the first part of it opened, then the DNR would take over from there.
And what has been obstructing Roy Street to keep
Oh,
your son-in-law and other people, as far as that goes, from getting to Gandy Dancer Trail from there? What do
anything you
see?
can imagine. At one time, they had a couch there. They've had cars, they've had boats, they've had, it depends on when you go look. And now she just said they got dirt, which I haven't seen yet, but
Again, I just want to know what.
But
you
I've
s-
seen, yeah, and that's what I've seen. I've seen cars, I've seen boats. I've seen that, whatever they call that machine, gator or whatever it is. And debris, branches, anything they can find, they put there.
And you spoken to a particular individual, and that person, did they acknowledge putting the items there?
Yes, yes, and that was Tracy Erickson. And he's the son of Gary Erickson, who owns the property. But Tracy, since he came back to live with his dad, has just, he thinks he owns that property.
And that is also who you've asked to remove it and who has declined to do so?
Yes, yes.
So do you view that road, did you perceive that road to be usable or passable?
No, no, you can't get down that road, no way.
I drove that area this morning, so I understand now where the layout of the land, including First Avenue. So
Right across the street.
you see that every day.
Yeah, I'm in the gray house. And I'm actually even afraid to stay there alone because of the way those guys are. They're threatening. Bob has had his life threatened a couple times at meetings. Right?
Yes, indeed.
Would you agree as a petitioner that it's do you still petition, do you still desire this county board to find the road to be impassable and order relief under the statute?
Oh, definitely.
Any commissioners have any questions of Ms. Wickham?
Steve Holland, District 1. I could have asked this of anybody, but it takes me a while. But if that road was open and I was driving down the Gansey Dancer Trail on my four-wheeler and I wanted to come and have a cup of coffee with you,
Oh,
I could get off the trail and drive down
that's right. Yeah,
Roy Street and come and visit you.
you sure could.
Okay. But now I can't.
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
Of course, he's assuming his four-wheeler is street legal too, right, Commissioner?
Oh, it is. It is. And I'm assuming she has coffee.
Oh, absolutely.
Any other commissioners with questions?
I do have one. Your grader operator, that Doug, Wida, now he works for the Arna Township, or is he a
Yes.
private contractor?
No, he works for Arna Township. He's an hourly employee.
Okay,
And he does our grading in the springs, winter, whatever. And in the winter, he does the snow plowing.
okay. And to the best of your knowledge, he grades and plows every other road in the township?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay,
Yes,
all right. Does what you guys asked him to do.
yes, right.
And this might be a question that would have been more appropriate for me to ask the board members, but as a clerk, you're stuck. So if you have an employee who has been given an order and flat out defies doing it, that starts to sound like insubordination and grounds for any kind of disciplinary action. Has that?
That
That's
has
what's
not
that?
happened yet, no. But Jan was just talking about that, if we have to go that route.
Well, that's personnel matter that could have all sorts of data practice implications, and
Yeah.
I won't get into that
No, that would be a lawyer thing too.
on behalf of the board, but I just thought would be a loose end that somebody might ask if we didn't, so. Good question, Commissioner. Any other commissioner questions? Is there anything else you want the county board members to know before we conclude your testimony?
Not that I can think of, but like I say, it is threatening up there. People are, I mean, like Derek, couldn't have got run off the road. They've chased him, you know. And Bob's been threatened twice already. And they kind of threatened me. They told me I was gonna go to jail because of that election thing and stuff, but that did nothing, you know. But they get you riled up. I can't even explain it how they do. They're just, ugh. And a lot of the police officers can, you know, attest to that because we've had police at our meetings every month for the last year. I have to kick them out, you know, or do whatever, so.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And our next is Walt, and I confess from a penmanship, it looks like HODGEM something. Hodgman. Oh, did you wish to testify or just?
I'm recently on the planning commission, so I know a little bit about this, but I don't have anything that would be pertinent. I'm just here to listen.
All right, that is certainly your prerogative, but we won't subpoena or force anyone to testify who doesn't wish to. Are there any other persons here who wish to speak on behalf of the township's position or as a township representative? Yes, sir.
I could redirect one quick point.
If you would-
Spoken, but
No, that's,
someone hasn't spoken, let them go first.
well, since you're the petitioner, but you also have a township representative, I think you also are in some ways are on both sides of the question. So, but if you could do it from here, please, and reminding you are under oath as you were earlier.
Absolutely. And I don't know, it's just, I'm a detail oriented person and I can't help myself because I was born that way. So.
And again, for the recording, if you could once again identify yourself.
Bob Brewster, resident of Markville, Whit Lane, Markville, Minnesota.
And you previously were testified on the petitioner's side of the equation. I guess you now have indicated you have some relevant evidence or testimony in your capacity as a township representative, so please proceed.
Okay, in relation to Derek Sweat's testimony, I'm not contending with what he said. It's just, you know, I'm not challenging his testimony in any way whatsoever, but in tying that into my earlier testimony in regard to the letter that Curry and Rupi wrote to the Gary Erickson, the owner of the property, on July 24th, 2023. Just prior to that, we did get a survey and an estimate. Derek, I think, had said that we had a lack of a surveyor and a lack of money. If I, you know, I want to be correct on that. And I'm just, you know, we had an estimate from Croschel here in Pine City for about $2,000 was the estimated cost, specifically to pin out all the relative points needed in relation to the Erickson property. But that also, I don't mean to complicate things, but you know, just so you have a complete vision, if you will, of what's gone on. The town, as part of the plat of the town of Markville, there is a never implemented town road on the west side of Erickson's property. Erickson's property, you know, as I said, the lots are like north to south 300 feet. Roy Street's at the very bottom of it all, going east and west. So the Erickson property is about a half a block minus the alley, if you will. north to south. And so beside the Erickson property, not Roy Street, but beside the Erickson property is what would be an extension of Railroad Street, if you looked on the plat of Markville and as part of the plat. And as I had referred earlier to the Maratska case, that was a situation where that came from. Even never built township platted roads are owned by the township. So it has never been bladed, it has never been built, it has never been used. And Erickson's, of course, also claim ownership to that. The only relevancy is that was part of the Crochel surveyor bid in order to clear both Roy Street and, if you will, the extension of Railroad Street simultaneously, which would take a number of different surveying points, so that doing Roy Street alone could be less than $2,000.
Thank you. And obviously, the only street that is concerned here today is Roy Street. So as to Railroad Street, I will make, the commissioners heard that as context for the record, but recognize.
Right, but I just wanted
They're not
to,
going to be issuing any directives about anything other than Roy Street.
right, but we did get a bid in relation to Roy Street, so that was all.
No,
And I guess it's not, all that germane, but yes, I've suffered also personal property damage from 3 o'clock in the morning. So again, I can't identify who, but there's, I have a very good guess to, in addition to death threats at town board meetings, I've had personal retribution in addition. So I would just authenticate the seriousness of the person involved here. That's it.
Anybody on the county board, any other questions? Thank you then, sir.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
The third group of individuals who have the opportunity to present testimony, if they are so inclined, what I would describe and what the sign-in sheet describes as other witnesses, interested persons. We have 2 individuals who have signed up. They may have just signed in, or they may wish to present testimony. But the first of those on our list is Larry Larson, Larson. Is there a Larry Larson present who wishes to testify?
Signed in, I'm sorry.
That's not a problem, sir. County board's had a long day, so the faster things go along, I'm sure that they won't mind. And secondly, on that same list is a Scott Anderson, Anderson. Is there a Scott Anderson present? And do you wish to present any testimony? Oh. Boy, they must pay those town board members well for them to have a driver. You county commissioners should be looking into that. Then I will ask if there are any other members present, either remotely or physically present in the county boardroom who wish to present any evidence or exhibits they deem relevant to the consideration of the county board.
I know Jenny's still there. Can she hear me?
No, not, you have to go to a mic. You can use my mic.
Hi, Jenny, it's Lynn across the street from your mom. Can you hear me? Jenny? Hi, Jenny.
Yes, hello.
Lynn from across the street from your mom. On that survey that you guys had done, did they not go all the way from the DNR trail all the way down to First Avenue with markers? Did they?
To my recollection, I don't remember if they went all the way.
Because I kind of thought I remembered on this, I saw markers down there that they put in the push.
If they could have, I don't remember how far they went. I can ask Ron.
There's a, yeah, that's not a very clear picture that they've got figured out. And I'm pretty sure that there were markers put on First Avenue and down. And then they also did your survey at the same time. So I think they went down the vacated part on her property with markers also. So there has been a
Yeah,
survey.
we
like
want to
in
stay on the
2018.
record of the Roy Street and,
It is Roy Street.
but we still need to follow the process, so.
Yeah, it is Roy Street. And I'm pretty sure there are markers that went down with that survey.
So are you saying you want her to sit in the chair?
And that was
Yeah,
2018.
if she's going to present any testimony, but I have a feeling that scared her away from presenting any more testimony.
Mr. Sir,
Yes.
Steve Holland, I just, I believe in surveys, but I don't believe it's a survey question. I believe it's a blockage of a road. And if the road was 1 foot this way or that way and it's being blocked, I think that's the question, isn't it?
Very, very good point, Commissioner, and I think, as you said, the issue here, and as we tried to explain to everybody at the beginning, this is not about who owns, this isn't about the 40-year Marketable Title Act or the Rails to Trail Law or anything like that. The limited issue before you is exactly that. Is the public street, Roy Street, which all evidence in this record indicates is in fact a public street, has it been made an impassable road by action or inaction of the town officials? If so, what, if anything, is the appropriate remedy for this board to order and direct the town to do? And then if the town doesn't do it, what are the remedies and options? So you're absolutely right, Commissioner. And the focus of my report or recommendations back to you will be a written report. As I said at the beginning of this conversation, I'm going to close the record today based on the testimony, the exhibits that you have received. I found the testimony for all the witnesses to be very helpful, very enlightening. So thank you all for that. And for those who you didn't testify, thank you for joining us. And one of you for getting our witness here. And I will be diligently beginning working, maybe even this evening, depending on what my family has in store for me, or over these next few days, and present a written report that will summarize my findings, what the statute, what your jurisdiction is, what my findings based on the evidence is in terms of the testimony. I will be submitting that written report to your auditor treasurer. That will be then submitted to you at your either special meeting or at one of your regular duly constituted board meetings, in which you will then act upon those findings and recommendations. Because you are the decision makers, I am simply an advisory administrator to what you choose to do. And when it comes to attorney-client type information about what the law is, litigation issues, or anything else, of course, you have your highly competent county attorney. I did see that the reason that you're the percentage, the fastest growing county in Minnesota, is because somebody told me that has directly to do with the correlation with the quality of your county attorney's office. So I did read that somewhere. So I will defer to him for any legal advice and assistance, obviously, that you will need. So my goal here and objective has been an independent third party to hear petitioner's side of the story, the town side of the story. I will note that to a large degree, the two of them matched up pretty significantly. There wasn't a lot of controversy. That makes my life a lot easier in terms of weighing credibility and should allow me to expeditiously prepare a written report. We lawyers are long-winded, so I'm going to shut up and I'll try not make my written report to be overly long-winded, but it will get to you as soon as reasonably possible. Chair, commissioners, any other questions, comments, concerns?
Nope.
Then,
Madam Chair, just so if I understood the instructions right, we will get a report. We can read that. We will decide as a board when we're gonna actually put it on the agenda to make a decision.
that is correct. I should also point out under the statute, if I haven't already, under the statute, board members are authorized. Statute, there's nothing to prohibit you from being limited to the report and record that I will present to you, because specifically you are authorized to go physically view the property if you are so inclined. And that is certainly your prerogative if you haven't done so already, you're not obligated to under the statute. It's not like an eminent domain statute where you actually have to do that. if you're eminent domain commissioner, but you have that discretion if you want to do that. You don't have to. If you do, and again, I'm not here to give you legal advice from an open meeting perspective. I would always recommend though that for an official business like this, no more than 2 commissioners ever drive together. So you don't have any open meeting risks. I'm sure you've been well educated by your attorneys about that. You can, go make your own observations, or not as you see.
And Madam Chair, I have one more question. Is there a timeline that directs us that we have to respond within?
The statute itself does not provide a timeline. And so, when there's not a timeline, then under the normal rules for administrative proceedings, if you were a judge or if you were a judge, you'd have 90 days. If you were a zoning licensing issue, which this really isn't, those of you who are sit on planning commissions know this, you've got typically 60, which is probably where you're coming from, Commissioner. You have a 60-day limit. This statute doesn't specify that. So then the default for administrative law purposes is generally a reasonable amount of time. And of course, that depends on the complexity. Your clock certainly doesn't start until I submit a written report to your auditor treasurer.
I'm not asking to stall. I just want to know if we were
Understood.
protected. Thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions, comments, direction from the commissioner, my portion is done. I'm gonna, since this was part of official county board proceeding, I don't have the authority to shut you down for the day. I will defer back to your chair to take such action in terms of either further business or adjournment as you normally do under the rules of parliamentary procedure.
Meeting adjourned. Have a great day.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You guys think-
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day also.